Hi boys and girls, my name is Miss Jennifer and I'm a teaching artist in the PACE Art program. I'm here today to do a fun art lesson with you. I am so glad that you could join me. Today we'll be doing a science-based art lesson. We will be learning how to grow a vegetable garden. We will learn about different kinds of vegetables, vegetable plants, how they grow, and what they need in order to survive, and so much more. For this lesson, we will be making our own vegetable garden drawing. We will be focusing on vegetables that grow above the ground, vegetables that grow below the ground, and also vegetables that vine on the ground. The supplies that you will need today will be 2 sheets of white paper, a variety of crayons, and a variety of markers. Now, if you want to use a black marker to draw today, you can, or you could simply just use your pencil, or you could even use your different color markers to draw. That will be just fine. So today, we will be using lines, shapes, and colors for our lesson. We'll be focusing on the words above, below, top, bottom, inside, and outside. So boys and girls, as I said earlier, we are going to be making our very own vegetable garden today. And here is Miss Jennifer's vegetable garden. Now, there is something that we need to know about all of this before we get started. And it is the word gardening. What does gardening mean? I want you to turn and tell your friend next to you if you know what the word gardening means. Do that now. I heard some really good answers. Awesome. Well, gardening is actually the act of growing and caring for plants that you planted. That means that you prepare the ground, you plant the seeds, you take care of the plant, you water it, you give it food, and later it will then give you things that you can eat, like here corn and pumpkins, potatoes. And so that is what gardening means. Now, let's think about this. If I plant a seed, I will then get this. What is this, boys and girls? Well, we probably said a sprout, but it is actually a plant also. We will get a plant. And so you start off by using packs of seeds, and you take the seeds, you plant them. It gives you a sprout that turns into a big old plant. And so if you decide that you want to make a garden, maybe you can ask someone to get you seeds, or maybe someone you know might have extra seeds, because that is a good way to start a garden. Now, we're going to be talking about vegetables today, but in a garden you could also grow fruits and other different things, but our focus will be vegetables. So, what do you think a vegetable is, boys and girls? Turn and tell your neighbor. Hearing some good answers. Great answers. Well, vegetables are things that you grow in a garden. So vegetables are a very important part of people's lives. We eat vegetables to help us stay healthy. Good job. So, what are vegetables, boys and girls? Let's turn to our neighbor and let's tell our neighbor what you think a vegetable might be. Do that now. Good job. I'm hearing some really good answers. Well, vegetables are edible plants that are healthy for us. The word edible means that we can eat them. Now, the amazing thing about vegetables is that you can eat the vegetable, but sometimes even the tops, the green parts of vegetables, can also be eaten. And so we depend on vegetables for food. Now you will hear me talking about the words crop and harvest today. Well, crops are where you plant living plants that gardeners take care of. Crops are kind of known as just all of your plants that are planted close together It's just a general word for like garden. You say, I planted my crops. So harvest is when you pick and gather your vegetables. You are harvesting your vegetables. If you look down at the picture that I have here, this is a basket, and inside of the basket, you see that the person who had the garden harvested their crop. So they have carrots and onions and cucumbers in their basket. And today we're going to be adding some of those vegetables to our picture. And so I want you to go ahead and take a look at the picture that you are looking at. This picture is a picture of a garden. Now you can see that this garden, this kind of has a fence around it, probably to keep animals out so that they don't eat the vegetables or fruits that are inside of the garden, or even just the plants. And so this is a garden that is pretty large. Now this picture is another picture of a garden, but you can see that this picture is kind of taken high up in the air so that you can look down into the garden. And you will see that these vegetables are planted in long rows. This is usually what a garden looks like. Alright, so now that we kind of talked about crops and harvest and gardening, the next thing that I want to talk about are different kinds of plants. You will see here that I have these plants, and they are what kind of plants? Corn plants. Corn plants grow really tall, but corn plants grow above the ground. Let's say the word above. Above means on top of, so on top of the ground. So you plant the seed and the plant grows above the ground. And then as it grows, the corn will start to come out on the sides of the plant. So this plant grows above the ground. Now, we're going to talk about something next that grows below the ground. Below the ground means under the ground. So if I look here, what is this, boys and girls? A potato. Good job. Now this is called an Irish potato. Can we say that together? Irish potato. Good job. And an Irish potato grows below or under the ground. Now, this potato is growing under the ground, but it is growing so big that it's starting to sort of pop out the ground. And so the plant part will grow on top or above the ground. The vegetable part will grow below the ground. So here we've talked about a vegetable that grows above the ground. Here is a vegetable that grows below the ground. So would this one be a vegetable? You think it's a turnip that would grow above the ground or under the ground? Let's think. Well, this one actually grows below the ground. But again, those turnips are starting to get big, so they're sort of popping out of the ground, but they actually grow below the ground. And this is what it looks like. Here are the roots that are all of this part right here is usually below the ground. All right, now I have another plant. What is this, boys and girls? Well, if you said a pumpkin, you are right. Now, pumpkins grow above the ground, but they grow on a vine. That's something different. So it grows in a plant that kind of grows and grows and grows on top of the ground. And the pumpkins grow on the side of the vine. So we have above ground, below ground, and vining on the ground. And those are different kinds of things that we're going to be talking about today. So here in my picture, my carrot would be what, boys and girls? Above the ground, below the ground, or vining on the ground? If you said below the ground, you are right. And you can see that below the ground, here are all of the little roots that my vegetable needs in order to get the food and the water that it needs. Right underneath here, I have different little color pieces of food for my plants. Now let's look at this one here. Would this be above the ground, below the ground, or binding on the ground? How about you tell your neighbor for this one? Go ahead and tell them now. Awesome. I heard above the ground. You are right, because here's my little vegetable above the ground. And this is my tomato plant. So tomato plants grow above the ground. Good job. So that's what we're going to be drawing today. We're going to be drawing a vegetable garden with vegetables. We're going to pick one that's below the ground, one that's maybe above the ground, or maybe even one that is a vining plant that grows vegetables on top of the ground. Good job. So now I have a couple more pictures I want to show you. Would this be above the ground, below the ground, or a vining plant on the ground? If you said above the ground, you are correct. And this is our tomato. And so this is a tomato plant, just like Miss Jennifer made here. Good job. Now, what about this one? What is this, boys and girls? I heard the answer. You said cucumber. How many of you like cucumbers? Raise your hand. Good job. Miss Jennifer loves cucumbers. Now, would you say that a cucumber plant grows above the ground, below the ground, or vines on the ground? I heard you say vine on top of the ground. Good job, boys and girls. It vines on top of the ground. And then I have another one for you. This one is onions. Now, I'm going to take my little picture off for you to see. These are onions. Would you say that my onions grow above the ground, below the ground, or vine on the ground? Well, if you said they grow in the ground, you are right. So they are vegetables that grow in the ground. Good job. There's something amazing about onions, though. We can eat the part that's under the ground, but you can also eat the part that's on top of the ground. So this one kind of has a under the ground and above ground that you could eat. Now the next one here, do you have any idea what this might be? These are Irish potatoes, boys and girls. And here is the plant. Do you think this is above the ground, below the ground, or vining on the ground? If you said vining on the ground, good job to you. Now, the reason earlier I told you that this was an Irish potato is because Miss Jennifer also had a sweet potato. They are two different kinds of potatoes. Do you think that the Irish potato and the sweet potato taste the same? No, of course not. The sweet potato is a lot sweeter. But let's also look at something else. The Irish potato, we said, grew under the ground. The sweet potato grows under the ground, but it also grows on a vine. And the rest of the Irish potato grows above the ground. So that is what is different between those two potatoes. So now I am ready to start drawing. You can get your marker, maybe a black one, your pencil, maybe your variety of markers, or if you even want to draw with a crayon, that is okay. You can get your variety of crayons out instead. I am going to go ahead and I think that I'm going to draw mine with my black marker so that you could see it, and then I'm going to use my marker later to trace and color some of those parts. So the first thing we need is our ground. And so what we're going to do is when we draw our ground, we kind of are going to draw a wavy line. So let's just practice that. Let's draw our wavy line like that would be our ground. Good job. All right. And then we're going to, first of all, practice drawing a carrot. So my carrot would be under the ground. Now to draw my carrot, I'm going to use a curve on the top. So here we go, a curve on the top. Remember, we're just practicing right now. And then a straight line on the side and another straight line on this side, and then we're going to use a curve again on the bottom. That is the vegetable part of our plant. Now, the neat thing about that is we can make these little lines going across, because when you look at a carrot, carrots usually have lines, and you can see here, you can sort of see those lines across the carrot. And so when we draw a carrot, we could definitely use those lines to show the lines that are on the carrot. Right, now the next part is we're going to draw the top part of our carrot. So that's going to be a little bit skinnier right here. Right, and then we're going to draw the leaves. Now to draw the leaves, really, you could just kind of use your wavy line like this. Maybe go back up to the top so we have one. Just kind of use your wavy line. And then you know what? Let's make another set and connect it together. All right, it doesn't have to be just like Miss Jennifer's. It is perfectly fine. So, good job, boys and girls. You now have your carrots. And if you look carefully, a carrot's leaves are kind of like wavy along the outside edge. And so that would be a carrot. Now, the next one that I want to practice might be our potato. And so, would our potato be above the ground or below the ground? If you said below the ground, you are correct. So here would be my potato. Just a nice, wavy kind of oval. Good job. Let's practice that, boys and girls. Now, if we planted our potato, and this is something a little different, potatoes are actually the seed of a potato plant. Wow. They actually grow in these little parts right here, little stems. This is called the eye of the potato. The stem will kind of grow out of the eye of the potato. And so for that, we're going to have to make some little eyes. And here we go. It's going to grow a plant from the little eye part of a potato. Have you ever seen a potato that stays maybe in your refrigerator or on the counter for a long time, and it'll start to have like these little parts growing out of it? Well, that is the plant that's trying to grow, because the potato is also the seed. So we have a stem, and we also need something else. What do we need here, boys and girls? Roots. And the roots help our plant to get food and water. Awesome. Now we forgot to do that on our carrot plant, so let's go add some little roots to our carrots. And if you've ever left a carrot in the refrigerator for a long time, in a bag especially, you will start to see roots. Now, you know the funny thing about this is you could actually plant those and they would grow because they still have roots on them. So here we go. Now a potato plant is above the ground, and so we need a stem. And notice that these leaves are sort of round leaves, or kind of like oval leaves. And so here we go. We're just going to kind of make some round leaves, maybe a big oval leaf, and we'll connect our stem together. And we could actually put veins, because on the inside of leaves we have veins. And so veins kind of usually look a little bit like this. Alright, so you can add some veins on the inside. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, we are just practicing. Alright, and I'm going to keep on drawing my ground to the end of my paper. Now the next one, because I have a below the ground, another below the ground. What do you think I want to draw next? Maybe an above the ground. Well, let's think about that. I have one that we could do. How about this one? What is this, boys and girls? This is a eggplant, and this is what the plant looks like above the ground. So we could work on our eggplant. And so we'll start, and at the very bottom it'll be different because we'll have roots at the bottom, which are sort of wavy lines, and then we'll we'll have a stem going up. Now for this plant, we have branches that have really big leaves, just like this. Notice how I'm using a lot of my wavy line, and I'm also going around and I'm not connecting any of my lines together until I get down to the stem. And we can go back and we could also add, good job, our veins to our leaves. And there we go. We would have our eggplant. I want you to tell your neighbor next to you, what are we missing on our eggplant? Tell them now. If you said that you're missing the eggplant, you are correct. So here we go. So a little stem, and the eggplants are sort of long, just like this, and sometimes they have like a little zigzag line across the top. And there we go. There is our eggplant. Hi boys and girls, I'm ready to start drawing my final picture. Now that we have drawn our practice work, we are ready. So let's put our second white paper standing tall like a door or vertically in front of us. The very first thing we need to draw is our what, boys and girls? Our ground. Good job. All right. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw kind of here and there along the edges more. We're going to draw different kinds of food for our plant, because we know that our plant needs food, but we're also going to later have to water our plants. All right, so I want to start first with my below the ground plant, and this is a turnip. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start, and this one's sort of round under the ground, and it has roots. Now if you decide that you want to draw a different kind of below the ground vegetable, you can do that. So there we go, and now I'm going to make the stems, because my turnip has a lot of stems, and notice I use my zigzag line to do that. And then I'm going to just sort of add some wavy lines around the outside edge. So here we go, around the outside edge, and there I have my turnip. Good job. Now pay attention when we color. Our turnip's going to be purple and white, so that's going to be two different colors. If you want to add some little lines to your turnip, you can do that. Now maybe you decided to do a radish, or maybe you decided to make a potato plant. That was perfectly fine. All right, now the next one that I want to draw is a corn plant. Here's what a corn plant looks like. And so we are going to be making a corn plant. Now a corn plant, as we talked about, was that a below the ground or an above the ground plant, boys and girls? If you said above the ground, you are correct. But we still have to have some roots below the ground. All right, and these are like really tall kind of stalks, just like that. So we're gonna grow them really tall. And the leaves for a corn plant kind of lean to the side a little bit like this. So there we go, using simply our wavy lines. And you can add some more, and sometimes they go really tall, just like that. Now I want to draw my corn, and I'm going to draw it right here. So notice this, I'm going to make like an oval, just like this, and the corn has a green part along the outside edges. So I'm going to sort of draw a curved line here, and then a curved line here. And the amazing thing about our corn is it's little tiny kernels. And so when we're drawing that, we might want to make some straight lines going across, and maybe even some straight lines going up and down. Look how easy that was, boys and girls. So that was like lines going down and then lines going across to make the kernels of our corn. And then we're going to attach our corn to the corn stalk. Good job. Oh, I love your pictures, boys and girls. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start coloring. And I'm going to start with my turnip first. I'm going to use my markers because I want to do a mix between markers and sort of a mix between my colors. Now, I'm not going to trace all the way around or put purple going down to the bottom because we know that our turnip has purple and white. Then I'm going to simply take my crayon and I'm going to lightly, remember this is dark, this is light, I'm going to lightly add some purple on the top, just like this. I just use markers and crayons to do that. Alright, now my roots are going to be traced in brown, whether you use your marker to draw them or you trace them. You can even use crayons to do that. And here again, I'm going to do the same thing to my corn plant. While I have my brown out, I'm also going to trace the ground part of my picture. I can also add some brown throughout, just like this. Now, for the top part, I'm going to do the same thing with the green, and I'm going to trace the outsides of my leaves. And then I'm simply going to go back on the inside and I'm going to color it in with different color green crayons. And I can also color some of the dark green marker if I would like on the inside, just like that. And so now I'm going to use a lighter green and I'm going to color in the inside of my leaves, just like this. And you can add several different colors. If you look up here at Miss Jennifer's picture, I added several different colors to my leaves. Good job. All right, so I don't have a whole lot of time for coloring, but I do want to skip over to my corn, and I want to color the inside of my corn yellow, and the outside part of the corn itself will be green, just like this. It will be green. All right. Now, I'm going to finish coloring my corn plant later because I also want to show you down here that when you color your ground, you can kind of color maybe the light brown across your paper, but you want to go back and you want to color in the food for your plants, maybe some orange, maybe some yellow, maybe some different color browns. And so there you go. And the cool thing is you can also add some yellow into the ground, maybe some dark brown. You could color your sky maybe blue. Maybe you could add different colors in your blue for the sky. And so good job, boys and girls. I really love your pictures, and I like the fact that you all drew different kinds of above the ground, below the ground, and even vining vegetables today. Now here is another picture that Miss Jennifer drew, and you can see for this one I have my below, my what, vining, and my above. I even added a dragonfly and a ladybug and some birds to my picture. Today we learned about gardening, growing vegetables, and what vegetables need in order to survive. We also made a drawing of a vegetable garden. We talked about growing crops, harvesting crops, and the different ways that plants grow, whether it be above the ground crops, below the ground crops, or vining crops. I hope if you have time that you will go back and maybe add some insects like ladybugs, maybe dragonflies, maybe bees to your picture. You can even take some time to draw another kind of vegetable plant. I had fun creating art with you today, and I hope that you take some time to share your picture with your family and friends. Until next time, keep making art.